believe it or not, or not believe it. Now, what we're going to say? Well, um, the reward center in the brain. You do something, triggers a reward, dopamine kicks in, whatever else it is. Now, I was going to say I wanted to generalize this beyond the illegal. So we ban things that can cause addiction, but there are things that are not banned that also cause addiction. And where some businesses, as much as they can, try to play on that to get customers. So we can generalize this. Hello, Cosmic Rose, lovely to see you. We can generalize this further. So I believe there was a study from Japan a number of years ago that showed how people who excessively talk nasty things about other people have their reward center activated by the act, as studies were showing, statistically more likely for that to occur. When I first read that years ago, it made me realize that we can generalize this well beyond drugs. You can look at anything that causes that behavior and then causes the anticipation for the behavior to repeat itself. So in those particular people, it's talking nasty things about other people. For some people, it's gambling. For some people, it's alcohol. For some people, it's sex with strangers. For some people, it is social media. It is posting. It is waiting for a new video to come out. It's waiting for the next game to come out. These are natural, and when not regulated, can turn into something dangerous in general. So it's not about when someone says, for example, drugs are dangerous. Yes, but the generality of that is that triggering the reward center when unregulated can be dangerous. And that includes drugs, but many other things as well, which escape that definition. And the escaping of the definition is what allows certain people to take advantage of those things. So, for example, as we remember, Coca-Cola used to have cocaine. Now, when cocaine became illegal, they replaced it. Now, they replaced it, of course, with caffeine, but one of the things that is replaced with was sugar. So what you'll notice is that a lot of foods still have a lot of sugar. And sugar in a lot of people can trigger the reward system. It's such a good feeling that you want to do it again. Now, an example of that, as many people might know about, is the dog with the salivation and the bell. Who remembers that experiment? That was before I was born, a long time ago. So first of all, you ring a bell and then bring the food to the dog. The dog starts to salivate when the food is coming. After a while, because you keep ringing the bell first, the dog associates food with the bell. So when they hear the bell, they start salivating. Physically versus psychologically addictive, exactly. And so then after a while, they stop bringing out the food and just rang the bell. And the bell caused the dog to salivate. So then you have to withdraw from that behavior. Now I'm going to take it even further. So if you've made it this far in the video, I'm going to generalize it even further. Not just the reward center, but also the punishment center. So as you know, some people will train others if they're in a relationship, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, parent, child. One can train the other to feel punishment. So it doesn't mean that the person did something wrong. It means that they're being punished. They're two different things. Now, of course, if the person's being punished, it might be because they did something wrong. But it might not be. It might be because they did something that's not in the interest of the person doing the punishing. Does that make sense? If you have a parent who, for example, has some sort of personality disorder, let's say they have narcissistic personality disorder, where they physically can't feel as much empathy and they see the person as an extension of themselves and more like a tool to be used. Now, in that particular case, the tool to be used being the son or the daughter or the nephew or the wife, the husband, whatever it is, they are being punished if what they do was not in line with what the narcissist wants. So then what do we have? We have the equivalent of the salivation without food. So the dog's now salivating because of the sound of the bell. So what the narcissist has done is using the equivalent of a bell, verbally withholding something, silent treatment, treating them badly in an abusive relationship, maybe physical violence, um, not calling them, avoiding them, ignoring them. We don't know what it is. Something that causes the feeling of punishment in the other person. So, in other words, it's the opposite of the reward center. It's not something that the person is chasing for the reward, it's something that they're avoiding because of the punishment. So, the person learns to avoid certain things. Now, those things might be good, might be not be good, but the person training them really is the one who puts that in them. Now, what happens when that person who's been suffering that guilt then tries to get away? Well, what happens is they're still hearing the bell. When they hear the bell, they still salivate. In other words, when someone treats them in that way, they still feel guilty or they still feel bad, even if they haven't done anything wrong. So that might be, let's say you have a child who's addicted to drugs and you love them so much, quote unquote, love them so much that you might decide that the way to help them is to, I don't know, give them more drugs or something like that, or a parent who's afraid that their child will smoke, so they'll make sure that they only smoke in the parent's presence or something like that. Now, I'm not going to comment on whether that's good or bad, obviously, but the point is that it is a training of that child in a certain way. So then assume the parent dies. Now the child who's an adult is now left with a feeling around smoking or a feeling around drugs or a feeling around what is permitted and not permitted by a carer. So then that guilt can last and continue and permeate. So in other words, in life, right, it's not just about getting off drugs. It's about understanding how to regulate, or how your reward system and whatever the other system is that you want to avoid, the punishment, how you learn to train them yourself. So it can be with anything. It might be exciting for me to jump on and talk to you guys on YouTube, but I recognize that it's exciting, and I do it when I feel it's necessary, and not just when I feel like doing it, because then, of course, that promotes a behavior, then that promotes a reward in the brain, and then that creates anticipation to do the video again, verbally or withholding something. So it's important to regulate oneself and to recognize what's positive, what's negative in someone's life, because it will always get worse and worse. For example, it could be just eating chocolate. You love chocolate and you notice that when you eat it, it's so good that you can't stop thinking about it, and then you think about having it again. And what they project that onto others, and what doesn't heal, we pass on. Absolutely right. So that's exactly the point. And I think the biggest point is to recognize that it happens everywhere. So when you go into a supermarket and you see an aisle filled with junk food, which, when I say junk food, it's stuff that once off may or may not hurt you, but having it for 10 years is going to destroy your life. Pompous loves chocolate. Yeah. Hi, Renium. So, and it's with anything else. It can be with listening to music. You might love listening to music, but if you're listening to it at a certain volume, over 5 or 10 years, you're going to go deaf. So what do? You look at people who suffered hearing loss and see what they have to live through and recognize, do you want to end up like that? So you make a choice to listen to music at a lower volume. So it's constant thinking ahead. And of course, you're going to get it wrong and you're going to make mistakes, but it's going to be better than if you just don't think about it and decide, I'm just going to commit this act, whatever that act is, how small it is. I'm just going to lend my laptop to my best friend. And, the best friend decides not to give it back because they need it for a couple of weeks, or they give it to their boyfriend or girlfriend, and then someone else just damages it, then you end up losing your friend. So this, or that friend might be someone who is a narcissist or entitled and thinks that they deserve to borrow your laptop because they're your friend, and then they punish you for not giving them the laptop. And then you feel guilty, so then you give them the laptop, but you feeling guilty is in fact an artifact of the opposite of the reward center, whatever that is. So you've been trained by the other person to feel guilty. Now, if your friend is doing that, then they're not a real friend. And the question is, do you want that person in your life? So anyway, nothing new. Why I did not stand next to huge speakers at concerts. Probably why you can still hear my voice through this through your YouTube app. Anyway, lovely to see you guys. It's been 10 minutes, and now I'm definitely going to go do some work. Until next time, take life one.